Welcome in, everyone. Hello, hello. We're here for another episode. Mandy, how are we doing today?
Amani, I'm wearing my dog sweatshirt. I want to show everybody. You got to
Okay.
check this
Ooh.
out. So, this is the first dog I've ever had. I've got a golden doodle, Luca, as many people know. Somebody took a picture of her face and put it on a sweatshirt for me for Christmas.
Ooh,
And so
okay.
now I am officially, I was already a creepy dog mom before this, but this really seals the deal. Like, this is her exact face down to her sweet little teeth. Can you see
I
this?
love it. Yeah, that's
I
very, very
don't
nice.
normally wear sweatshirts. I normally wear a sweater or something for the show, but I put this on and it was so comfy and I thought, well, I'm just going to keep it on today. So you got creepy dog mom today in full
Okay. Okay.
effect.
We'll take it. We'll take it all
Okay.
day, every day. So, yes,
Okay. What
yes,
about you, Amani? I'm sorry about your team. I'm sorry about the Commanders, but
yes,
congratulations. Your team
yes.
made it very
That
far this
we did
season.
make it far. We went out with a little bit of a spank. It was closer to a little bit, but it was a tough game. It was, we did well. I'm very proud. I'm excited to see what we do in the off season to continue to improve. So
Yeah.
thank you for your well wishes.
You are welcome. What surprised you the most about your team this season?
How much they won, how far they got in the playoffs, how well they did, all of the above. Like it was a
Good.
shock. It's a
Good.
shock. So yes, pleasant surprise.
Good. I've got envy. I've got NFL envy. I'm really happy for you.
Yes, yes, that's good. That's good. So that was it. Back from Nashville, had a good trip. Shall we introduce our guest? What do you think? We got
I think
questions.
we gotta get right to him
We got
because there's
questions.
so many questions. Yes. No more chitter chatter. Let's
No
just get
fear
right
chatter.
to him.
So I met Richard Bliss at National Speakers Association Las Vegas. I was responsible and volunteered to pick him up from the hotel and take him to our first dinner. And so we get in the car, we're going to dinner, and we just started chatting and hit it off really well. And so I was already excited. And then when I got to his session the next day, I was like, OMG, this is a lot of information that's very, very good. And so that was probably the only session for our chapter where I've seen, first of all, it was packed. And second of all, there were so many people taking so many notes and asking so many questions that we actually going to have him come back to do part two in May. It was that impactful. And I think you were here. We did a debrief
We did
because
a
what happened
debrief,
is we,
one of
we
our
did a
mini
debrief,
episodes.
one of our
Yeah.
mini episodes, and that's kind of just shows you all what we learned.
That
So
it was in that mini episode. I was like, why are we gotta get this guy on the show.
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
right there. So
So
glad it's happening
with
here.
that, let's bring Richard Bliss to the stage. We're going to bring Richard to the stage. We're going to give him a round of applause. So here is Richard. Yes. And I got to shout out Lisa Ferrano. I think I said your name right. Hello. We're glad you're here with us too.
Hi,
So,
Lisa.
Richard, welcome to the show. We're excited to have you here. And I don't know, my first question is that before you were passionate in teaching about LinkedIn, what was your favorite social media platform?
That's a good question. Oh, first of all, excited to be here, Mandy, Amani. Thank you for inviting me. And we did have a lot of fun in that car
Mhm.
ride, that short
Yeah.
little car ride that we had. The social media platform beforehand, I ran a podcast for 10 years that was extremely successful. And at the time, LinkedIn really wasn't on the horizon, but Twitter obviously at the time was doing very well. And I racked up. I had a couple of Twitter accounts with about 25 to 30,000 followers on each one of those because I ran a podcast about Kickstarter. And I think most people now know what Kickstarter is, but back in 2011, very few people knew what Kickstarter was. And so I ran a podcast teaching people about Kickstarter. And that kind of got me started and got me thinking about things.
All right. All right. That's good. I mean, we just want to jump right in.
Sure.
LinkedIn, it's January 2025. What do you feel are the most relevant and pertinent algorithm updates for LinkedIn that we should be paying attention to right now?
There's a lot there. First of all, when we even talk about the algorithm, a lot of people don't understand how the algorithm works, right?
Yeah.
Amani, I think that was one of the reasons that you just mentioned that in the session that I presented in Las Vegas, there were so many notes being taken because I call LinkedIn the upside down world of social media. Everything you're trying to do on the other social media platforms is sabotaging your efforts to be successful on LinkedIn. I mean, everything. For example, Gary Vee It's all about quantity, right? Pump it out 100 pieces a day. You get one post a day on LinkedIn. If you post more often than once a day, LinkedIn just hides the post from your audience. It's still on your profile, but they don't put it into the feed of anybody because it's like, look, no, you get one a day. We're not here as a dumping ground for your marketing content. We're here to spark conversations. You can pretty much have one conversation a day. It's kind of their mental. So for a lot of social media teams, that's kind of an eye opener. What? I only get one a day? And I deal with a lot of enterprise companies, a lot of salespeople, tech. I live in Silicon Valley. And so there's a very different approach to LinkedIn for enterprise account sales rep than there is for a solopreneur, a speaker, or someone who's on their own. Because they're kind of their brand and what they're trying to do. But for a salesperson, they're trying to they have a specific account, or they're trying to find a specific account and open that door to close business. And so when it comes to the LinkedIn algorithm, some of the things that I teach work. It depends on who you are. Are you that solopreneur? Then there's some aspects that you want to take advantage of. If you're an enterprise, then there's some things you can break some of the rules and take advantage of that. But probably the biggest one, then when it comes to it, is that the fact that LinkedIn is not looking for you to entertain the audience. And oftentimes, while video generates a significant amount of traffic, it converts a shockingly small amount of business. For example, Mandy, what kind of car do you drive?
A white Lexus.
White Lexus. And Amani, how about you? I rode in that car. I can't remember what it was.
The black Volvo SUV. Yes.
Did either of you make your buying decision based on an ad that you saw on television?
No.
No, you did not make a buying decision based on something you watched. You probably test drove it, talked to somebody who had one, rode in one, saw one, engaged with it, researched it, looked at all of these things go into basically you had a conversation with a lot of people who know something. The TV ad or the video that you had watched maybe sparked your interest, but it certainly didn't make the deciding point for you to make that decision. And the same thing's on LinkedIn. Oftentimes we use video to get people's attention. Now I'm going to watch a video if I need to fix my washing machine. And I'm going to go to YouTube and I'm going to watch it, stop, watch it, stop, watch it, stop. But 30 seconds of a TikTok video, if you can get TikTok anymore, I mean, what happens after that 30-second video goes through? Another 30-second and another 30-second and another 30-second. My point here is that on LinkedIn, it's very difficult to convert business with video. Generally speaking, the algorithm is going to reward you if you trigger a conversation with text, if you write it up. Because both of you read, and when you read something, you're having an internal dialogue with the author of that book, whatever that book might be. I happen to be reading the Silo series based on the Apple TV with Sarah Ferguson, fantastic series. I'm having a dialogue with the author because in my head, same thing happens on LinkedIn. When you're reading and talking but that doesn't happen when we're watching a movie. I'm not talking to the director or the actor. And when I'm watching a video, very seldom am I talking to them, and I'm not going to leave a comment. And that's the secret to the algorithm. That was a very long answer. I'm not even sure I answered it to a very short question, but that kind of gives you an idea where it's coming from.
Yeah. And I want to say hello to Ian Hawksworth. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, Ian.
He wants to understand, does a second post in the same day stunt the first one? And you've explained that process, so go ahead.
Yes and no. So you put your first post out. You've got let's back up a little bit. When the first post goes out, you have 60 minutes, maybe 90 minutes, but you have basically an hour to prove to the algorithm that this post should be shared with an audience beyond a small test group. Now, LinkedIn only shows your content to a small test group, about 10% of your audience, give or take. Well, if you want that to be shown to a wider audience beyond that little test group, you need to prove to the algorithm within an hour that you've triggered a conversation. And you do that through comments. You have to get those comments going. So what happens then, if you post a second post, let's say immediately afterwards, an hour later, it doesn't affect the first one because LinkedIn just shuts down that second one. 99% of your audience will not see it. But if you, about 8 hours later, even maybe a day later, you post again within the 24-hour period, about 8 hours later, LinkedIn will shut down the first post and start promoting the second post for about an hour. And then it'll weigh them. Which one's doing better? And it'll promote that one. So the answer to Ian's question is yes. which is bad if it's a really good post. You just kind of
Mm.
stepped on it. But good if it was a really bad post and nobody saw it anyway. And so now you get a chance to do another one.
Good.
But pretty much you only get one post a day. That's just kind of a rule of thumb to keep in the head. You can get away with it. And by the way, if you're an enterprise salesperson, I teach in my training to throw that rule out and post 10 times a day.
Okay.
But that's because you have a very specific audience in mind.
Got it. Mandy, over to you.
Well, I have a follow-up comment and then a follow-up
Sure.
question. So I love this. I love the reminder of you have 60 minutes to generate as many comments as possible. And, for anybody listening or watching, that's where your digital flash mob comes into play, right? Like I've got all these different groups that I belong to where we have this mutual commitment of if I do a post, can you comment on? And I let people know right away. We comment. So we're all sharing with each other. Comment if it hits you. Don't comment something silly or stupid, but like comment if it resonates with you. So I think like setting up that digital flash mob or, making sure that the value of that content, it hits people in a way where they want to comment. But that's my follow-up comment. But my follow-up question to that is the actual quality of the post. So what do you have to say for people out there that are just like, they're just posting just to post? They're not like being intentional or thoughtful about the quality of it. Like, what does the algorithm need to see in terms of quality? And I'm not talking about length or
No.
words to use. It's just quality of that.
LinkedIn doesn't care. They
Oh,
honestly don't care.
okay.
They don't care. What they care is, did your audience find quality?
Okay.
They're not measuring the quality of your content. They're measuring the quality of your audience's interaction with the content. And that's a fundamental different thing.
Okay.
If I put out a stupid dad joke and my audience loves it and they start sharing their own dad jokes, we triggered a conversation, even though the quality of that content's pretty bad. But if I just work on something and work on it, and it is one of the most fantastic pieces of content, and I put it out there and it doesn't trigger people to comment and engage in my conversation, LinkedIn's like, we're not going to show this to anybody. Why would we show this to anybody? Your audience, your test group didn't find it interesting. Why should we show this to anyone? And I'd like to address what you brought up about your flash mobs. I call them social squads.
That's
You
fun.
got to be careful here because one, too big of a flash mob is explicitly against the terms of service of LinkedIn. Manipulating the algorithm where all you do is comment on each other's content but they're really lax about enforcing that. But instead, and also to be aware, when you leave a comment on somebody's post, that comment and their post goes to nearly 30% of your audience. And so oftentimes I'll see a comment, thanks for sharing. This was awesome. Loved it. All right. Now that comment went to 30% of their audience. What did they learn from that? Nothing.
Yeah.
And so you got to
get
be
it.
careful that if I've got a flash mob or a social squad or a group that's working with me, my content's being pushed in front of that audience. Now, again, I deal with enterprise salespeople for large technology companies. They really don't care if a whole bunch of random people see that content, if it's not the specific buyers they're looking for their multi-million-dollar purchasing deal or whatever it might be. And so while you might get the impressions, you're not getting the conversions.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's something to think about is that and so if you want to grow your business, let's suppose you're a solopreneur. Let's suppose you're a public speaker and you're a solopreneur public speaker and you want to grow your business. Instead of thinking about creating content and driving conversations, which goes to 10% of your audience, instead comment on conversations that are already happening where you can add your value as a speaker. What is it something about well-being, something about mental health, something about business or branding. If you can demonstrate and add to that conversation, your comment in that conversation is going to be picked up and put in front of 30% of your audience. And if they respond, it's going to be picked up and put in front of their audience. And so these commenting strategies can be very powerful. That's what LinkedIn's looking for. Much more than any content, they're really looking at your comments and what you're doing with that.
I think now, is this Amani or Richard? Correct me if I'm wrong. Richard, you're the one that says the currency is in the comments, right? Did you say that?
Yes.
Did I get that from? Yes.
Yeah.
So, and you just illustrated why the currency is in the comments, but I just think that's a great alliteration, but it's just a great rule of thumb to remember the currency is in the comments.
The currency, LinkedIn, that's their coin of the realm is, did you leave comment? Even to the point where if you make a post and then go comment on 3 other people, you'll get like a 30% boost to your post because LinkedIn sees you participating in other people's conversations. You're a good citizen on their platform. They're not looking to entertain us. They're not looking to distract us. They're not looking to hold us underwater till we stop struggling and doom scrolling. They're looking to trigger business conversations between us that we can find value there. And they're constantly looking to tweak that with the algorithm, with things like that. Right now, you're seeing a lot of video because there are obviously videos on everybody's mind with TikTok and everything. But is it converting? Probably not. It's getting you exposure. And there's influencers out there who are just talking about it. But did it get me a new gig? Did it get me a new booking? Did it get me a new lead? And that's really why we should be on LinkedIn, not just to be influential. I mean, I've got 20,000 followers on LinkedIn. But the vast majority of those people don't do business with me. And so while it's nice, it's not my business model.
Okay. Well, while we're here really quick on followers, can you explain the difference between followers and connections? And is there
Absolutely.
value in having one or the other?
So the answer is yes. Wait, which question did I answer? Okay. So
I don't know. Yes and yes.
So a follower, somebody said, hey, I'm interested in Mandy. I'm going to just keep track of what she says and what she's doing. A connection is Mandy found me interesting, so she wants to follow me too. So it's a mutual connection. It's like if I hand you a business card and you hand me a business card back, it's kind of like there's a connection. But if I have you a business card and you're like, thanks, and then you walk away, I'm a follower. We're not necessarily a connection. And there's a limit on the number of connections you can have. Now, the number I'm about to share sounds astronomically high, but I got to tell you, I run into a lot of people who have bumped up against this number. You only get 30,000 connections. I say only, but Amani, I think you know this as well. There's a lot of people, public speakers, that type of thing, who've just run those numbers up. And now they're bumping up against that 30,000 and they're having to delete people to add new people. There's no need to be connected. The reach of your content on LinkedIn is not decided by the size of your network. It's decided by the quality of the engagement of your audience, not the size of your audience, the quality of the audience. And so having all of those connections is great, but followers can be just as effective. People can follow you, stay in touch, keep up on your content, and be aware. So unlimited number of followers, 30,000 connections. The next question you asked, I completely forgot now since I went off on that.
Is one better than the other?
Connections allow you to engage with that person and send them messages. Okay. There's a trust factor there. Now, with that said, somebody wants to connect with me. I look that over carefully. And if I accept the connection request and I immediately get a DM pitching me, delete and block. I don't even care who you are. Delete and block. I never want to talk to you again. You violated a trust. My accepting a connection request from you does not give you permission to spam me. I'm sorry. That's not how this works. And so, anyway, like I'd use some type of dating analogy, but I don't know if that works. But anyway, the point here is that
nobody wants to be pitch slapped. And I'm glad you addressed it. I'm glad you addressed it because we all get it. It all happens to everybody.
Okay, so
go ahead.
Go ahead. You have, go ahead.
No. So I have a little dot. I was just having a conversation with somebody online just now about, I have a little dot in front of my name. And the reason is because I will get connection requests from people that says, hey, Dot Richard, I'd love to be able to do some business with you. Hey, Dot Richard. Well, most people don't even know how to make a dot. So I know they didn't put that in there. Their AI tool, their automatic connection tool, put that in there because they went and scraped my name off of LinkedIn and now just pumped that out to me. Comes in through an in-mail, comes in through a connection. I just delete that person. Delete.
Wait,
or I save them
and
then
right now to see your
Look
your
them up.
dot. You do have a dot. That is fascinating. What a good week.
And it's so innocuous. It's so innocuous that most people don't quite notice it. Now, if you have an emoji or something, you got to be careful. You're not allowed to have a lot of characters in there that aren't associated with your name. I can get away with the dot, but most people can't even notice it. And then also, if you have a dot in front of your name and you ask to connect with me, that's an automatic acceptance. Why? Because you're part of the Bliss Army.
You're in the club. Yeah, you're in the club.
You're in the
That's
club.
fun.
Right?
That's great.
I love it. So, gotta say a shout out to Christine Malfair. Good to see you joining us here. And Lisa Verano has a question. She says, "Are impressions not really a good barometer of interest from your audience and biz conversion, or is it all about those comments?"
She's asking a great question, and it's a scale. If you're not getting impressions, then almost no one's seeing your content. So that's number one. Is anybody even seeing my content? That's number one. After that, and by the way, on LinkedIn, you're not going to get impressions unless you get comments. So the comments are driving the impressions. This is also the opposite of the other social media platforms. They show their content to as many people as possible, and then you get an engagement ratio, right? Okay, 10,000 people saw it. How many people engaged with it? And I get a ratio. It's the exact opposite on LinkedIn. LinkedIn shows it to a tiny sliver of people, as few people as possible. They then see how many engagement you get. And then with that engagement, they now send it to a wider audience. So remember I said it's the upside down word. Everything's the opposite. So her question is, if I have a lot of people seeing it, is that a good metric, or is it the number of people have commented? Well, if you didn't get a lot of people commenting, not a lot of people saw it. And so stick with the impressions first. Are people seeing my content? Number one. And that's generally going to be driven by a comment. So yes, comments can be number two. But the next one I use is profile views. Is anyone looking at my profile? Why? Because if I'm participating in conversations and people find my content interesting, what are they going to do? Look me up. And if I can show that I have a growing and a sustainable number of people looking at my profile, that tells me I'm attracting an audience, not just my content, but me. Number three, this is why I have premium. See who's looking at my profile. Now I know whether I'm actually attracting the right audience.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I get a whole lot of, I ask my wife every once in a while, hey, I got all these really attractive young Filipino women keep wanting to connect with me. Is that me? She's like, no, that's not you. What? I think it's me. My point here is that be aware of the value of the quality. Those three numbers all intertwine. If I'm not getting people to see my content, then I'm probably not getting anybody to look at my profile, which means I'm probably not getting anybody who actually I can do business with. And so it becomes this funnel. And so there's no such thing as vanity metrics. It's all data, and data is valuable. And it's not, I hate that term vanity metric, unless that's all you're counting. Oh, look, I got 100,000 people following me. Great. But now let's turn that data point into another data point and a deeper and deeper and bringing it down. And so I don't know. What was the question? Did I answer it? You got me going again.
You can answer it. That's
good.
If you're watching and you have questions, put them in the chat. This is live and interactive. So lately, since maybe like November, I've been putting up maybe 2 or 3 videos a week sharing different tips about the music industry, like the question, answer, and all that. So there's a pretty good amount of text and there's a quick video. Based on what you've seen, what could I add to that strategy to make it even more impactful? Because there are some videos that I still get comments on and things on weeks after. There's some that I don't get. How would you adjust that strategy, asking for a friend, to make it even more impactful?
Well, the first thing is you're doing the right thing, and that is you're using text. You're using text to drive the conversation. People are reading and then they're watching the video. Very seldom do we watch the video, then we go read. They're reading and they're watching the video. So generally 100 to 150 words of content is going to get that conversation. And then the video becomes augmented to that. I mean, it's like the Lord of the Rings. Well, maybe not for a lot of people, but I read the book like 10 times and then I watched the movie 30 times, but I read the book. And so what we want to do, Amani, is they want to read, they want to hear what you have to say. Also, because it's very hard to share video content. It's very hard to take that and then give it to somebody, cut and paste it, comment on it. If there was something you said in your 90-second video at second 45, right, I got to go find it. And so you're doing a great job using that text to tell your audience the most important things you want to know. And then using that flash mob or social squad, call people out in the comments. Okay. So for example, you're talking about music. Now, you know people in the music industry. Right. You're going to talk about a particular topic in your video. Now in the comments, let's suppose it's Mandy and I. Let's
Right.
suppose Mandy and I are like stud music people. You're going to make this video, this text, and then in the comment, you're going to say, Richard, I know you and I have talked about this particular topic in the past. How have you addressed this issue? Mandy, I've seen you be successful with this so many times. What are some of the secrets you've used? Now, Mandy and I are going to get notified in LinkedIn that you've mentioned us in a comment. Instead of, hey, could you go comment on my post I just made? I'm going to get notified and I'm going to know exactly what you want me to say in response to the question you've raised about the video you just made. One, I'm going to watch it. And two, now I'm going to add my conversation, thereby my audience now seeing your video in their feed because I've stopped and engaged. This is a great way to use these flash mobs, these social squads, to pull them into the conversation rather than just to have them make those throwaway comments so often that we get. So that would be one way of doing that. Now, I think having watched your videos, you're already using subtitles. You're already putting it out there. You've got great content. But using your commenting strategy to keep that conversation going and pull people in would be one thing that I would add to that.
I love it. Great suggestion. Before we get to Manny, got several questions from the chat. Keep bringing them on.
Bam, bam, bam. I see him coming in.
Now, Manny, is it Brian Arone? Did I say his name right?
Yeah, Brian Aroni.
Brian,
You got it.
Brian.
Yeah.
Okay, Brian Aroni. He said he saw something the other day. Like people will comment and like their own post. What is your opinion on people who like and comment on their own post just to try to drive attention to their own content?
It's kind of dumb, especially on LinkedIn, because it doesn't do anything. Okay. It doesn't actually do anything, except you can comment, just like I suggested, Amani, in your post. You're going to comment and call me out. You're going to comment and call Mandy out. You're going to comment because you're inviting us into the conversation rather than putting it in the post. Now, if you tag people in the post and they don't respond, you're going to get penalized. LinkedIn's like, look, you called somebody to the conversation and they didn't join. So why should we show this if the people you called in didn't join it? But if you do that in a comment, there's not a problem. So this behavior of liking your own post and commenting on your own post, the commenting is okay, but that carries over from the Instagram world, from the Facebook world, where that kind of, those metrics drive engagement. Here on LinkedIn, it's just a carryover habit. It doesn't necessarily hurt, but it doesn't really help. You're not really doing anything. Oh, look, I like my own post. In addition, engagement on content, this doesn't quite come into the answer, but engagement on posts is not cumulative. So if I like a post and then I comment on a post, I did not give it double value. I gave it very little value. A like on LinkedIn, and I like to do this, you saw me do this. When you like something on LinkedIn, you basically said, I did not find this interesting enough to stop and participate in the conversation. So I just gave it a drive-by like, telling the algorithm, I really didn't find it interesting, which is the exact opposite metric that Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok are looking for. They're looking for those likes because we even teach, hey, like and comment, like and comment. Well, if you like and comment on LinkedIn, LinkedIn's like, you liked it. Thereby, you told us you didn't really find it valuable. And then you commented, but we ignored that because we already saw your first initial engagement with this post. And it was, I didn't really find this interesting. So I liked it.
Got it.
And I say that because that's a shock value of people going, what? That's the exact opposite. Yes, it is. So if you're going to do something, comment and then like it if you want, but comment. Leave that conversation first. Comment. You're going to, this is a broken record.
Yes.
Comment.
The comments. Currently in the comments, we're going to chant it.
We got another question from Julie Fry. Thank you for joining us, Julie. She says, what are some tips for those who don't know where to start with posting to attract and engage audience?
Comment.
I set that up for you.
Okay. So, and I don't mean, I'm not being facetious here. So I'm going to talk to Julie. Julie, you want people to pay attention to you. The first thing you have to do is pay attention to someone else. So now, if you're going to talk about you have elevating company culture and employee advocacy is what I'm guessing because it cut it off. So Julie, I'm saying go find conversations that involve company culture and employee advocacy. Go add your 2 cents, add your info, participate in these conversations. How often? 3 times a day. 3 times a day, go find people to comment on in your own network, at your company, outside, in the industry. Do that for 5 days in a row. If you do that simple exercise, you will see a 300 to 500% jump in the number of people paying attention to your LinkedIn profile next week. I mean, what's today? I don't even know what today is. Today, Monday? Tuesday?
Today's Monday.
Monday.
So, Julie, by next Monday, you will have a 300 to 500% more people looking at your profile. Now, here's why this is important. If a first degree connection looks at your profile, the very next thing you put out on LinkedIn shows up in their feed. Boom, just like that. You don't even have to tag them. If a first degree connection, if you can get them to look at your profile, the very next thing you post goes in front of their feed. Well, if you participate in other people's conversations and add value, they're going to say, oh, hey, this is good stuff. Who is this person? Click. They look at your profile. Boom. Suddenly, the next thing you put out is going to be put in front of it. That's a first degree connection. But this is also why you want to pay attention. How many profile views am I getting? Because also when you get a new connection for the next 2 weeks, anything you put out on LinkedIn will be pushed to their feed automatically. You swiped right on a dating app and LinkedIn wants to know, is this serious? So let's put content in front of each other and see if they interact with it. So going back to Julie's question, if you're trying to get people to pay attention and attract an audience, you need to go be the audience first. You need to participate in those conversations, add value, engage. And then what's going to happen overnight, I'm telling you, overnight, people will start wanting to connect. They'll start following you. They'll start paying attention to you, looking at your profile. In a week, it takes a week, and suddenly that'll happen.
Nice.
I'm gonna say one other thing.
Sure.
So many people feel right now that their LinkedIn feed is full of random stuff. It is because you have been teaching, I'm talking to the audience now, you have been teaching the algorithm what you want to see by randomly liking content from your high school friends whose son just graduated from middle school. And you click the like button, thereby telling the algorithm, I'd like to see more of that random stuff. It only takes about a week and a half to 2 weeks for you to train the algorithm to show you what you want to see. And the first thing you need to do is stop randomly liking stuff. Now, maybe that's what you want to do because you just want to let people know you're seeing it. That's great. But really what you want to do is go comment, because now they will see you participating and they'll get that little notification that Julie or Amani or Mandy commented. Oh, really? Either, oh, who's Mandy? Let me go check it out. Or, oh, hey, I haven't talked to Mandy for a while. Or, hey, I just connected with Mandy. I should follow up, right? There's all of those triggers. The like button's not going to do it. So go comment, and that will start to train the algorithm of what you want to see. And it'll be more and more about your prospects and your customers rather than just random things from high school or whatever.
College. Mandy, over to you.
So good. Oh my gosh. I have to rewatch this and take notes because this is so good. Okay. I have a couple of yes, no's for you. Polls.
Yes.
Value of doing polls.
So polls came out about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, and they got pushed heavily by the LinkedIn algorithm, which is what they do with a new feature. And if you recall, they flooded our feed. And every time somebody commented or voted, it got picked up and put in front of their audience. And so we got flooded with all of these random, do you like coffee or tea? I don't care. I don't drink either one. And so one of the things is that polls kind of got a bad rap. Now they've come way down in that promotion, but you can use them effectively to kind of get that audience to engage. Now I'm going to tell you, very seldom does anybody I know going to have a poll that's going to generate more than 100 responses. That's doing good. If you can get 100 people to respond to your poll, that's doing good. That means they cared. But I've used polls. For example, when my book came out, I created a poll of do you like it on Kindle? Do you like it on Audible? Do you like it Audible read by the author, or do you like it in physical form? I didn't care what the answer was, honestly, because I was doing all four. What I cared was my audience knew I had a book coming out. So every time one of those people voted on that poll, it got picked up and put in front of their audience that Richard Bliss had a book coming out. So I used the poll to push my agenda rather than collect data. The polling samples on LinkedIn are going to be so small, they're not going to actually drive significant data point value. You need to get at least 1,000 responses to get a solid data point that allows you to act on that information. So what you want to do is use polls instead to put the content out there rather than try to collect the information. Put something out there that you want people to know that you know something about. Recently I was talking to Mandy and Amani, and one of the things we talked about was this. In your opinion, what is better, this one or this one? Okay. I really don't care what the answer is. I just care that you know that I was talking to Amani and Mandy. So polls
are a good
can serve a
tool.
function and they can get in
Yeah.
front of your audience.
Got it. So it's a good tool for engagement. In
Wait, was that a
addition,
yes, no question?
yes, I heard what I heard was yes. I heard yes, use polls is what I heard, but I don't know. Other people may hear no. Okay, hashtags, yes or no? Because I stopped using hashtags on LinkedIn after I talked to Amani like 3 months ago or so.
Yeah.
But hashtags,
Hashtag
yes or no?
hashtags have been completely removed from the algorithm. You can still use a hashtag. I can tell when somebody's double posting to Instagram and LinkedIn because they've got a wall of hashtags that serve no purpose whatsoever on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
It's become almost impossible to follow a hashtag anymore. You can't really search for a hashtag. And so LinkedIn has just kind of walked away from the hashtag value. Now, you can create them and still they serve a function. You can have a personal hashtag or something, but they're really just adding a little bit of color commentary. It's like Tom Brady calling a football game. He's just adding a little bit of color commentary there, right? And good news is Monty didn't have him calling the.
He was calling the game. It was.
Oh, was he calling the
was
Commanders
good.
game?
He was calling the Commanders game. Yes.
But last week
I
he called
paused the
it.
TV when I was watching, and I called my wife in. I'm like, "Is he really that good looking?" She's like,
Yeah.
she just walked out of the room. She was just like, "Yep." Like, all right. She said he looks like a Ken doll. I'm like, "Yep, he looks like." Anyway, sorry.
Go ahead, man.
Last yes or no. This might be yes and yes or no and no. Pick single pictures versus carousel pictures, and carousel is just the fancy way for people listening that don't know is just multiple pictures or one picture on a post.
No, we can't do that. I'm gonna take you back from that. You can't say that because a carousel serves a very different function on LinkedIn than just a bunch of
Educate
pictures.
me. Yeah, educate me.
Yeah. So there used to be something called carousels on LinkedIn. They've done away with that. But really a carousel now is what's called a document, and that is a PDF or a PowerPoint or whatever equivalent. And when you have slides and you go through, that's now referred to as a carousel on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Okay. And those can be very powerful because every time somebody clicks, that's an interaction that's telling the algorithm, I'm interested, I'm interested, I'm interested, I'm interested. So they're like, oh, okay, let's show this to more people. Multiple photos, the research shows that if you go beyond 3, you're really losing your audience. Okay. So 3 is a good number because you're going to have 1 and then 1 and 1. And so it's going to be a little bit of a montage. Beyond that, you've got to click and see all of those. You're kind of losing your audience there with if you go beyond 3.
Cool.
That's
so
what
1
the
is
research
enough.
is showing.
1 can be enough.
1 can be enough. And let's talk about images because the research shows that, and now I'm talking about neurological research, that if you're adding an image, it needs to be the story. It can't be something that adds to the story. Here's why. When somebody looks at an image, the brain immediately stops and starts to process to determine what about this image should I be remembering? What about this image actually has something to do with what I'm reading or listening to? What is this image? And it's causing the brain to stop listening, to stop reading, to stop and process and try to come up with it. So if you have an image of a person, silhouette of a person climbing a mountain and you're talking about perseverance, the brain is actually going to ask, is that a silhouette of them climbing the mountain? And then the brain's going to say, probably not. Then do I need to remember that image? No, probably not. And at this point, even though it might be nanoseconds, the brain has disconnected and kind of fallen behind. You got to be careful with images on LinkedIn, not because of the algorithm, but because of the human algorithm. And the human algorithm gets hung up on images if they take away from the story. Generally speaking, let's suppose we made an image of this right here and we posted that. We are the story. And so this image would cause people to say, oh, there's Richard. Oh, there's Amani. Oh, there's Mandy. Or, oh, that's what they look like, right? The story becomes the picture. And so you got to be careful with imagery on LinkedIn because it causes, generally speaking, stock imagery drives a 75% decline in engagement. You get a lot more likes, but you get a lot less comments because people aren't going to comment on your stock photo of 4 people sitting around a laptop all smiling and wondering which one of those is part of your team. No, it's a stock photo. And so be aware of images on LinkedIn and the unintended results of creating stock imagery and putting it out there. Marketing teams hate this because they think it's all about the pretty picture and the infographic and what they did. That gets in the way.
Okay, so I want to follow up on the quality of the picture really quick because we have a lot of hotel people, hotel salespeople in the audience, or people that sell to hotel salespeople, and they're not showing stock pictures. A lot of times they're showing actual live pictures of an event or a beautiful picture of a view or something that's actually happening to them at an event. So does the
But they
street
took the
cred
picture,
go up?
probably.
Yeah, they took the picture. Does the
Yeah.
street cred go up a little bit more of a beautiful image of you on a street, a cobblestone street with a bunch of colors in the background in a foreign country kind of thing?
Yeah. Because
Okay.
now let's call it a selfie. They don't all have to be selfies. But if I took the photo and I'm posting it, then yeah, that's gonna drive a conversation.
Yeah.
Did you take the picture? Where were you? That's a beautiful spot. How did you take that picture? Oh, is that just with your eye? Right. Think of all the questions that come from you taking a picture in a beautiful spot simply because you posted it and you took it. But if you just go grab something off the internet or you have your marketing team grab it, nobody's going to comment on that. It's like, oh, that's a
Yeah.
beautiful lobby. Did you
Got
take
it.
that
Yeah.
picture?
Yeah.
No.
So
The
I
people
have a
make the place. The people make the place. That's good.
I have
Good
another
reminder.
follow-up one in
Oh, I
terms of a
like that.
yes or no. Yes or no would be, and I know what you're going to say, but I want everyone to hear it. The badges that show you like the top 1% contributor to this topic or whatever.
Wait a minute. What's the question?
Is it still alive? Is it dead? Is it
Badges,
still alive?
yes or no?
I knew the question, and you knew the question, but you didn't ask the question. So I'm making you
Yes,
ask the
yes.
question. All right. What Amani's talking about are collaborative articles. Collaborative articles came out last year, and it was the idea for you to contribute to these comments, these posts. And then if you did it enough times in a certain right way, you got a little badge that said, hey, you're a top contributor or a top voice. And it was a little gold badge, little star went on your forehead and say, oh, look at what I'm talking about. LinkedIn did away with the gold star because they discovered that it was driving the wrong kind of behavior. Is that people were just, and oftentimes they were using AI to artificially comment just so they could get the gold star. But they kept collaborative articles. Now I'm going to say something that's counter to most of what I hear on LinkedIn, and it's well-intended people, but they're wrong. And I get to say that because I'm on the show and they're not. And so collaborative articles are AI-generated topics that LinkedIn has put out there for us to comment on to add our expertise. Now, what's nice about this is, so what's the naysay to this? Oh, we're training the algorithm. We're giving away all of our knowledge. We're giving it to the AI. Yes, you are. Because what you're doing is very seldom do we have the opportunity to actually blatantly promote ourselves on LinkedIn. To blatantly promote. We can do it subtly and kind of little humble bragging. But these collaborative articles say, you seem to be an expert in the music industry. Amani, could you answer some questions about this? Now, what's Amani going to do? Well, I don't really know that much. Well, no, he's going to say, oh, let me tell you about what it comes about signing contracts and protecting your intellectual property as a music creator. Here, let me tell you. Boom, 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 boom. Here. Right? There's my machine gun typing.
Angry typer.
I'm an angry typer. Bam, 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 bam. Well, now what's going to happen? There's a whole lot of people following that topic who are interested in that topic, searching for that topic. And who's going to bubble up as the leading expert on that topic? Amani. He trained the algorithm and the AI tool about what he knows and the level that he knows it, so that if anybody is looking for that kind of information, they're going to bring his profile. The algorithm will bring his profile to their attention because he has proven to the algorithm he actually knows what he's talking about. I did one of these the other day, and within like an hour, 2,600 people had looked at it. It was a comment about algorithms in social media. Maybe I know something about that. But suddenly 2,600 people who weren't in my network, who I don't know, suddenly are reading my input and thoughts on this topic. So these collaborative articles continue to be an incredible resource for people to build their brand and to share with LinkedIn and that wider audience the expertise they have in particular topics. And very seldom do we get that chance just to blatantly tell somebody, yeah, I'm really good at this.
Got it.
So I think so. Amani, I love that you asked that question. So I think my takeaway on this, and Richard, let me know if this is the right takeaway, because this is what I feel is the right one. I get requests to collaborate all the time, and I sometimes respond, sometimes I don't. I used to respond because of the badge thing, and
Yep.
then the whole badge thing was annoying, so I stopped answering the collaborative questions completely because I'm like, "This is too much work, and I'm not interested in this."
Right.
But what you're saying now is when you get the invitation, if you have the time and you do have something valid to contribute, respond and don't worry about the badge because it goes far beyond the badge. It's actually another means to get some deeper engagement. Is that the
Well, they got
takeaway
rid
on
of the
that?
badges, so you're not going to get a
Yeah.
badge
Who
anymore.
cares? Okay. All
And,
right.
and guess what happened? People stopped, just like you, Mandy. They
Yeah.
stopped participating. They didn't
Yeah.
get the badge. Oh, I'm not going to do it if I don't get.
Well, I
I'm
stopped
okay.
after I got one badge because I'm like, that is a lot. I don't want
There's
to
a lot
work
of
this
work.
hard for a badge. I don't care about these silly badges. It was just too much.
And
Yeah.
a valid point is that suddenly they realized that people were pursuing it for the wrong reasons,
Yeah.
and so what they did is they took the badge away, but those collaborative articles are still there, and again are particularly if you're a solopreneur and
Yeah.
you're trying to find a way to get your. We had Julie asking, right? How do I get people to pay attention? Go comment on your topic of company culture because they have one in those collaborative art. Now, how do you find those collaborative articles? Google it. LinkedIn collaborative articles, and boom, there'll be a link, and there are thousands of them. So you
Amazing.
can go find the one you want to comment on and engage with. And again, it's not very often that we're given a chance just to tell and promote ourselves when it comes to our knowledge. And that's what they're doing. They're like, no, we want you to tell us. Go for it. What do you
Love
know?
it. We
So
had a
the
couple
answer is
more
yes.
questions. Couple more questions from the audience. Ian asks, you can comment with GIFs. Do they get the same
GIFs.
impact on the algorithm that text does?
It's a GIF, just so we're clear.
GIF, excuse me. GIF. Yes.
That's right. I've been doing this a lot longer than most of your audience, so
Yes.
I can be an authority on this.
Yes. GIF.
As my team says, I've been doing this since the late 1900s. Which is not flattering,
Yes.
but it's true.
It's true.
So
All right.
commenting with GIFs.
Remember, the purpose of a comment is to drive the conversation, and that comment will be picked up and put in front of your audience. Oftentimes, the GIF is nothing more than an exclamation. Boom, yeah, whoa, way to go, awesome. And it's some meme that we're taken from, which means your audience, not the author, but the audience who sees that GIF response has no context of why and how that GIF applies. They don't know. They know you. So they know Ian. Ian, your network knows you. But if you respond to somebody's post with a GIF comment, your comment is going to be picked up and put in front of your audience. And your audience doesn't know who you commented on. They'll see it, but they don't know that person. And so they don't know, okay, they commented with a funny meme. But then you've lost the opportunity of expanding your expertise to an audience that's listening to you participate in a conversation. So you got to keep coming back to the fact that my audience is listening to my comments in a conversation. What do I want them to know? And so there's three things about a comment that are important. First of all, tag the author.
Yes.
Mandy, if you were to make a post, I would tag you. Mandy, you make a good point. And then I would restate what I want my audience to know that you said. I'll restate it in my comment. And then here's how I've found that applicable when I actually use this technique that you just talked about. I add my own insights. My comment will be picked up and put in front of my audience. Full context, that they see everything I need to know, who I'm talking to, why I'm commenting, and how I added value. You comment back, and now suddenly my comment gets picked up and put in front of your audience. It's like a mini post, but it allows me to reach a wider audience that normally I would have never reached if I had just simply made that into a post.
Got it. Okay. Amy, I see your question. We'll ask it towards the end. Right now, Richard, though, we want to flip the script and let you ask both myself and Mandy any question you like. So what question would you like to ask us? And who do you want to ask that question to first?
Why in the world do you vote for the Commanders? I mean, that's
Is that your question? Is that your question for me? Okay, so hold on for a minute. Yeah. So I grew up in Silver Spring, Maryland. I grew up a Washington Redskins fan since I was a baby, 4 years old. So I've been loyal for 35, 40, 45 plus years. I've been through the darkest time of our franchise, which was the last 26 years. I stayed loyal, and this year I was rewarded. So that is why I'm a Commanders fan, and I believe in loyalty, and my loyalty was rewarded this year.
That works. I was a Seattle Seahawks fan in 1974 when they became a franchise with Jim Zorn, Steve Largent, and it was a big AFC, right? They played the Broncos, they played the Raiders. When they moved over to the NFC, I didn't care. Meaning, no. It's about who you play against and you beat on a regular basis. Not
Right.
suddenly they were an NFC team and I didn't care anymore. So I can completely understand that.
All right.
Mandy, my
Mandy.
question for you would be, how do you make money?
Ooh, how does one or how do I make money?
How do you make money?
3 ways. I find hotels and source hotels and negotiate contracts for people planning conventions and conferences all over the world. I'm a professional speaker, author, and sales coach. And then, well, I guess that's the 3 in there: professional speaker, sales coach, and author.
How long have you been doing that?
So I've been sales coaching for 18 years. I've been doing the hotel stuff for 26 years. And I've been an author for 4 years.
So you've been also doing your career since the late 1900s.
Yeah, we should wear matching bonnets. Yes, yes.
We should, right?
We should.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I'll get you the Holly Hobby
Flap
bonnet.
your
Yeah.
wagons. That's right.
Mhm.
Flap it.
Yeah.
So what makes you good at your job?
Creativity. I think I'm a good
Really?
listener. I think I have
Are-
fun. I think I bring joy. Yeah. I many things, but those would be the
If I
first
was to
ones
ask your
off the top of my head.
clients, what's it like working with Mandy? What would they say?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I mean, would they say the same things you just said? That she's fun,
Yes.
that she's
Yes.
creative?
Yes.
You
Yes.
sure that's not a cop-out answer just because I answered it for you?
No, I think they would say that, but I also think that they would say that she cares deeply and she will help us fix whatever we need. I think.
I got to believe that because probably over the years, the relationship you've built with these clients has moved far beyond just simply a one-off business contract to
Oh,
deep
yeah.
relationships and trust.
Yeah.
What
Yep.
kind of advice then would you give to somebody who's in their career of how to build that trust? How do you go about building that trust?
Oh, that's all a part of the sales coaching, Richard. Yeah. I mean, business relationships are crumbs that make the cookies along the way. So there's so many ways to build trust, right? It's listening deeply. It's not being the asker. It's giving value as much as you can, making your customers smarter, being there for them even when you don't need something, um, educating yourself on everything you possibly can so you can be of value to them along the way. Yeah, I mean, there's just so many ways to build trust.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Being responsive,
There we
doing
go.
what you say you're going to do, actually, doing what you say you're going to do, which sounds silly, but it's it's so rare to find right now. It makes people like me get more business because a lot of people don't do what they say they're going to do.
Yeah.
Got it. Amani, I'm feeling bad. The only thing I asked you about was your
I
commanders.
know, but that's
Yeah.
okay. That's okay. You know, it's fine. We've talked before.
And you asked it with such disdain too.
Yes, I was ready
Of
for
course.
it. I was ready for it. We got 2 more
Well, he was
questions.
so
for you.
he was so apologetic when he talked about it. Yeah, my command. Yeah.
I'm so hurt. But anyways, I'm getting over it. So 2
Uh.
more questions for you, Richard. The first one's from Amy. What if you're getting asked to contribute to things that aren't your expertise? How do you get topics that are in your expertise? Would that just be Google it?
Yeah, Google that and go find the ones that your expertise. So hospitality and tourism, there's going to be topics in there that you can just Google. Okay, I want to see the collaborative articles, and now it'll have 500 topics, and under those topics will be 30 themes or 500 themes and 30 topics underneath each one of those. So that's the best way to go do it and start participating that way. If they're not asking you, jump right in and go contribute.
Now, my final question for you is we're going to take you back to when you were at Brigham Young. We're going to talk to that Richard right as he's graduating and ask you to give your younger self advice based on everything you've learned so far in life. What advice would you give your younger self?
Richard Bliss is 3 classes shy of graduating with his bachelor's degree from BYU.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
That's why there's no dates on my graduation, and you don't need dates on. There's only one reason people look at the date of your graduation on your LinkedIn profile, and that's to see how old you are. So for all the women out there, I recommend take those graduation dates off your college education. They are not needed. In addition, I didn't finish. I was there for 10 years. I was through the ROTC program. Probably what I would have said, there's a lot of advice I'd give to that Richard Bliss. But I had an opportunity shortly after school to go to work for 2 different companies. One of them. So the year was about, now let's see, that would have been 90, let's say the mid 80s. I could have gone to work for Microsoft that had just gone public. And I even have it in my journal. I keep a regular journal. Here's one next to my desk. I've kept one for more than 40 years, almost 50 years. And they're in my journal. It says, yeah, my dad just suggested I go find this guy named Bill Gates and go talk to him. And that was in 1986, I think was that. Or go to work for WordPerfect Corporation in Orem, Utah. And I chose WordPerfect Corporation instead of Microsoft. And probably I might, from a financial standpoint, I might have said, you chose poorly.
Okay.
But more than anything,
yes,
continue to take risks, right? I had just come back. I speak fluent Spanish. I'd lived in South America for a couple of years. I went to Taiwan for a year and studied Chinese. I took lots of risks with just just stuff. And when I got to school, I thought I got to grow up and become more mature. And so I started to do things that I thought were more mature. And I'd go back and say, no, stop being mature. Keep being that fun-loving person, because it took me a long time to come back to being that fun-loving person and not mature anymore. I think, whatever.
Well, we thank you for all the wisdom and advice and tactics and strategies you shared in this quick 50-minute conversation.
That was fast.
It was fast. I feel we could talk more.
We need you to come back for part 2.
Of course.
We
Yes,
need
of course.
phases of Richard
Yeah.
Bliss in our lives.
We have your website on the ticker. People can also follow you on LinkedIn, I'm assuming. And is there any other way we can support you and spread the good news?
Yep. I have a book out there. It's been out for a little while called Digital First Leadership. I wrote it based on all of my experience as an executive, a chief marketing officer, as well as so many of the executive I've worked with, that in today's world, people meet you first online. Either they look you up on LinkedIn or something, then they meet you in person. This is a whole shift in muscle skill. And so I wrote that book. It's out on Amazon. You can find that one out there.
Digital First Leadership.
Yeah.
Digital First Leadership by Richard Bliss. I have several out there. One called Stealing the Show. That was about, if you're small and entrepreneur, how to steal the show against the big boys. But that one I wrote myself, edited myself, and it's got spelling errors on the back cover. So that one that was about 10, 12 years ago.
Live and learn. It's a relic.
Live and
It's a
learn.
relic.
Yeah. I'll put
That's
a
right.
link in the chat. Marilyn, hello. So we're going to give you a round of applause and get you back to the green room. But just thank you very much for an awesome session. So round of applause here for Richard.
Thank you, everybody, for participating in the chat.
Yeah.
Those are some really, really good questions. And
Yeah.
if you have continued questions, comment on this post and we will get them. We'll get answers for you, or shoot us a DM and we'll continue to get answers for you. Thanks for participating.
All right. So, Mandy, that does it for this episode. Thank you very much for Richard for appearing and sharing all the wisdom. Who and what do we have to look forward to next week?
We have Kurt Shaver, a buddy,
All
a
right.
former mini episode guest from a couple years
Okay.
ago, and another LinkedIn expert, but also a hospitality consultant who just started his own business recently. So excited to catch up and see what's happening with him.
All right. Well, if you're watching, thanks for all the chat and the comments during the live stream. It was great. Thank you all. And if you're listening or watching after, please remember to subscribe, rate, and review, whether you're watching or listening. And with that, we will see everyone next time. Take
See you
care,
next time.
everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye. Hold on.